Ooh, you didn't tell me you were a brainiac.
Here we go. Welcome into Leatherbrain, to our host here, Slapdog, and we have a lot to talk about. We actually have talked with a gentleman that is not part of the show, part of the regular scheduled programming, so to speak. We sat down and we interviewed a Jets beat reporter for Sporting News, Jay Ricci, and got to talk all things Jets football. Super excited for all you Brainiacs out there to check it out and listen to it. It's going to drop here at about the middle of the episode, so excited for you guys to listen to it. But before we talk to Jay, let's start with some news and notes around the NFL. I'm joined here today by the full crew. We got Yeti, producer Scotty, and Alan Casanova Castro. Let's just jump in, boys. We'll start with the Steelers. The Steelers have declined running back Najee Harris' fifth-year option, saving the team roughly $6.7 million in cap space, and meaning he is
Fantasy
slated.
managers have been doing this for years already.
No, they haven't. They've put him on the bench, and it's been a really, really disappointing ownership of him. But he might be going to a new team after this next year. It would seem that is probably the case. And I think that we're probably going to see this trend continue with running backs as the market becomes less aggressive for them to get a deal done. So
I think it kind of depends, because the Chiefs did that with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he's back.
Yeah, so but Clyde isn't even the starting running back.
No, but I'm saying even if they can bring him back on a cheaper option, they might just do it. So
yeah, well, and I think that just showcases the fact that the Steelers really aren't scared to lose him as a talent.
No.
And if they're basically saying we'll take you at a much cheaper alternative than what. yeah, exactly. Sure. Like, we don't care if we lose you. So
they have Justin Fields now. They don't need a running back.
That's true. That's true.
True. He's a kick returner, punt returner, and running back now.
Does it all. Yeah. While we're talking about players that may or may not be on teams next year, let's talk about Tee Higgins, gentlemen. The Bengals wide receiver has signed his franchise tag and is now reporting to training camp. I thought this was kind of a screwed up thing to do by the Bengals. They had released an announcement saying they signed him on a 1-year deal instead of saying that they franchise tagged him. So I don't know if you saw that on social media, but it was kind of a little scummy thing that they did to try and make it seem like they weren't. Yeah, we all know you franchise tagged him, but they're like, we signed him to a 1-year deal. And it's like, well, you kind of just handcuffed him to a 1-year deal. Like, if you want to get down to brass tacks, kind of scummy. But I figured, do you guys have anything to talk about with this Tee Higgins thing? I think we've kind of covered a lot of it.
We did. Okay. I texted you guys earlier. Did you guys look at the tweet I sent you?
Yeah.
I did, yep. Yeah.
So I'm going to read the tweet from Kurt Benkert on X, which is still weird to say. So he said on here, and he posed the question. He says, why did Joe Burrow get worshipped for throwing to Jamar Chase, Tee Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Mixon, while Brock Purdy got dismissed for throwing to Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, and CMC?
Because Joe Burrow's a first-round pick.
That's it, right?
That's it.
If Purdy was first, second-round pick, we'd largely be like, oh, wow, this guy is really freaking good.
Yeah. If you put on the tape comparing the two, would you be able to say that, Brock Purdy's a first-round pick and Joe Burrow wasn't?
No. That's what I was going to say, is that when you watch him play, it's like, obviously Purdy's done very well, taking nothing away from him, but the offenses are so drastically different, and it is true that Purdy is throwing a lot of screens and throwing a lot of short routes to some of the best athletes in the NFL. And Joe Burrow obviously also has some of the best athletes in the NFL, but he's launching the ball deep. He's making solid reads. So Joe Burrow's just living up to expectations. Purdy is exceeding very low expectations. So I don't think they're on the same level.
That's very true.
And I tend to agree with you, but I also look at it as like, why is Purdy being valued, so undervalued? Why, you still see people, whenever we have a graphic go out and let's, rank these quarterbacks or, keep trade cut, I know we've had a couple of those flow through, and Purdy's been on some of those, and it's every single time people, cut Purdy, and it's, over some of the other quarterbacks, and obviously that depends upon who you have in the graphic and everything, but, I feel like in the NFL community, a lot of people are just, very out on Purdy as a talent, which I'm sitting here scratching my head because I get it, right? He does have all those weapons, but can you not make the argument that he is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL at this point, or are we still dismissing that?
He was one blown assignment away from somebody not blocking Chris Jones away from probably winning the Super Bowl. in that overtime drive. He was right there. He, led him down the field. He managed it. He overcame the long third down. I think it's what you want to see. And we do that a lot in the NFL. Like, we want to see some of these guys be what they are. And then we largely just write guys off because we feel like it. And I don't think Purdy, obviously the talent is there, but I think he does have a lot of weapons around him. So I totally get that. But I think the comparison, it's a interesting conversation to have, but I do think he's a top 10 quarterback. Like, you look at guys that couldn't manage all that talent. Look what's happened to them. It's not a foregone conclusion that just because you have great talent that you're just going to be able to succeed with them.
Well, we're talking about quarterbacks. Let's talk about our favorite quarterback, Sarah Jessica Parker, quarterback for the Jaguars. He got paid. He got paid over the week, or last week rather. He signed a 5-year, $275 million contract with $200 million in guaranteed money. And I've seen a lot of people over on the Twitterverse or X, whatever we're calling it, saying that this was an extreme overpay. And I have my thoughts, but as we're sitting here talking about Brock Purdy, and we're looking at the fact that he was Mr. Irrelevant, and he's about to come into a payday, which quarterback would you rather have? Money aside, who's the better quarterback here, Trevor Lawrence or Brock Purdy? Like, which would you rather have for your team? Because I think it's a lot closer than people want to sit here and admit.
I'd want freshman Clemson University quarterback Sarah Jessica Parker, because I saw somebody mentioned it online the other day, and I think that's what it is. Like, there's still that potential, because I think what he did, you're like, oh wow, he can do all these things. And I don't know. I mean, he won a playoff game. He's been to the playoffs, so it's not like he's
playoff game.
Hey, Herbert hasn't won a playoff game, but
I'm not.
So I think it's still potential. I think they're paying him because of potential. They're not rewarding him because of anything he did. And it's that question of, can you get better? Can you find a better quarterback right now? Or do you just lock in what you have? You just love the one you're with for the moment and then figure it out.
Well, and it's also, it's more than that too, because what we see is just game day. But they're spending every single day with this guy, and you have to take all that into consideration. When you're an NFL franchise, the vast majority of NFL franchises are in one of two camps. Either they think they might have their quarterback, or they definitely don't have their quarterback. Very few people have like the franchise quarterback that they're going to give a 10-year deal to. So they're just in this situation where they're just like, well, how many people are better? We see him on the field. We see him off the field. We see how he interacts with the team. All of these things lead us to believe he could potentially be our franchise guy, and we want to lock him down before this quarterback. The thing is the longer you wait on signing players, the more expensive they get. So in some cases, especially when you're talking about the most expensive contract on your team, you want to secure it when you think you've got it right away, as opposed to waiting and getting more expensive and still being unsure, and then you end up in crazy situations that you never recover from.
Well, 100%, Scotty. And I think when you're looking at the numbers with Trevor Lawrence, he did get paid $55 million a year, which is a lot, right? But when we compare it to other contracts that we've seen over the past year, or past 12 months rather, it's the average of what we're seeing in the market now for these top quarterbacks. I mean, Jared Goff got $53 million. Joe Burrow got $55 million. Herbert, $52.5 million. So 55 is just kind of the asking price, and unfortunately that price is just going to go up when we have guys like Dak Prescott, Tua looking for contracts. And I mean, Jordan Love, he's going to follow in those footsteps as well, and he might get even more than 55 mil.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because you look at it and what is the alternative, right? Like Trevor Lawrence right now is the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. I don't think any of us are sitting here saying he's the best quarterback in the NFL. I think that we know that that's not the truth. In fact, I don't even think Trevor Lawrence is top 8 quarterback in the NFL. I think he could be something, but he really largely hasn't done a ton. He went to the playoffs and did okay in the playoffs 1 year. And aside from that, we haven't seen a lot. So, but what's the alternative? And I think that's really where you have to start asking yourself is like, what do you let Trevor Lawrence walk? And yet you mentioned all those quarterbacks that are now getting paid pretty good money. And I've seen a lot of people say, well, why'd you pay him early? And it's like, well, would you rather pay him this now or hedge your bets that he's going to get cheaper later? And that's really, I don't think that's going to be the case, because as you have said, Yeti, the quarterback asking price is continuing to increase. So maybe you lock him down early. Like, look at Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes' contract is a very great example of this.
Maybe
Patrick
the
Mahomes,
best contract in the history of the NFL.
But,
Like,
well,
they locked him in immediately for a long time, and now it's just like minor increases here and there, and now that's looking like the best deal in the history of football.
yeah. Yeah, I think he's getting paid like 8 or 10 as far as like the ranking of the quarterbacks as far as how much they're getting paid, and like he's obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but you've got him locked in a contract, and so maybe that's why we see the Jaguars make this move when they did, is to try and make sure that they're not having to pay more money a year later for the same guy. So I don't know.
Yeah, or who do you
ahead.
go pay? Or who do you
Yeah.
go pay if you're not paying him? Who
Well,
do you go
that
get?
begs the question. Like, at what point do teams start to say, you know what, I don't know if you are the guy, and maybe we just re-roll. And I get that there's a lot of conversation around how that works, right? With draft capital, et cetera, et cetera. What does the market look like for free agent quarterbacks? There's a lot of variables involved, but I think we're going to have to see some teams here start to say no. And I think the 49ers are a really great example of this with Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is somebody who he was caught on FaceTime just today with Jaden Daniels saying they don't want me back. They don't want me back. And they being the 49ers here. So our team's starting to kind of put their foot down, so to speak, and say, hey, we're not going to pay you this premium upper echelon price. And I understand that he's a wide receiver and there's a difference between quarterback and wide receiver, but wide receivers are also demanding an exorbitant amount of money right now. And maybe the 49ers are saying, hey, look, like, we want you, but we don't want to pay you $30 million a year because we have a whole roster full of other guys we have also got to pay. So you're talented, but we could probably, as Alan had said a couple weeks ago on the show, quote unquote, find another one.
Yeah.
Fair to say?
Yep. Yeah. I think that's it for GMs. That's most of the GMs when they're looking at these is, can I replicate that production with another player? Can I find somebody that could do similar to what they're doing? And, you know, we talk about all these moves, and Dak Prescott's going to keep being a name that everybody's going to talk about. And not because he's going to be like the best quarterback ever, but because if Dallas says, we're done, this is not going to happen for us, I do think there is a substantially high number of teams that are like, okay, we're in. Like, we would love to have a Dak Prescott, because even though he's not going to win MVPs potentially, you know, he has put up pretty MVP-like stats over the last, I think, what was it, like the last 15, or I forget what the sample of time I looked at was, but it was like comparable to what Mahomes did last year during the chunk of time. And yes, in the playoffs that didn't show up, and I think that's largely what's going to be his downfall in Dallas if that happens again this year. But there's going to be teams that are just going to kick that around. Can I replicate, or can I get something better in the market? And Ayuk's another one that's probably going to fall victim to that, where it's like, yeah, I think the 49ers can replicate. They could probably replicate that with their own team at the moment.
Probably.
Just forget about actually signing anybody else. They could probably just replicate it with what they have.
That's the thing, too, is that Ayuk is in a unique situation where even though he's a stellar athlete, he's surrounded by stellar athletes. So now the team has to decide, okay, which of these all-stars, superstars are we going to pay? And he just happens to be lower on the totem pole than the other superstars, despite the fact that he would be, you know, wide receiver 1A on a whole bunch of other teams in the league.
And let's not forget that the 49ers probably drafted his replacement this past year in Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. This is a guy that he's dynamite with the ball in his hands in space, and he can make you miss. That's what Brandon Ayuk does, right? But when we're talking about, like, why don't they just cut Deebo Samuel? And I think it's because they don't want to cut Deebo, because he's a two positional type of guy out there. He can play running back and wide receiver, but you can't do that with somebody like Ayuk or Pearsall because they're smaller. Deebo's got the build to play running back already, so he's a huge asset for Shanahan's offense, and I don't think they want to lose him.
Plus,
let me just pose this question before we move off this topic, because Alan talked about Dak Prescott. Do we think either way, no matter what happens, is Dak Prescott going to be one of the next 2 or 3, probably the next highest paid quarterback in NFL history? Because if he stays with Dallas, then obviously they're going to have to pay him a whole shitload of money. And if they decide that they're going to move on in some dramatic fashion, some other team is going to make him the highest paid quarterback in NFL history, I think. I think it's going to happen either way.
My internal sources tell me Jordan Love is going to be the next quarterback that gets paid.
Yeah, that's probably a better bet for the next one. But is Dak Prescott eventually going to get that title?
No. I think he's going to fall in
so.
that like 52, 53 million range when he goes. And that's going to be like mid-tier about what he would rank on NFL quarterbacks. But I think for him to stay in Dallas, I do think he has to win a playoff game. that is going to be the benchmark. He has to win a playoff game, which is funny to say out loud, but that's honestly what it's going to come down to. Because Jerry Jones is very like to the pulse of what everybody's saying. He loves his fan base. He wants to do right by him, right? He's got Jerry World. Everybody comes in there to watch this team play. And if the people are at the gates demanding that they move, I feel like Jerry's going to do it. Like he would cave to that pressure to move on from Dak, and then Dak's going to go somewhere else and like win a playoff game with Tennessee or some stupid shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I agree with you, Alan. I do think that 52-ish, like the lower 50s, is probably where we're going to see Dak at, and I think that's probably a fair thing to pay him. But like, I mean, he's going to be 30 years old. He's still obviously statistically a good quarterback, but he's not a young, spry quarterback. He's kind of starting to look like a Kirk Cousins-esque guy, where he could help you, but you also need to make sure that you're surrounding him with talent. So I don't know. I've never been a fan of Dak. I think you guys have known that for a while, but it's going to be interesting. There's one last thing. Go ahead.
Sorry, I keep derailing you. If you were the GM for an NFL team, would you rather have Jared Goff or Dak Prescott right now?
Jared Goff.
Easy.
Jared Goff.
I think it depends on your offense, right? I think if you want somebody who can stretch the offense, you put in a guy like Dak Prescott.
I just don't like Dak, so I'm taking Jared Goff.
This is not unbiased from Slaps.
Yeah. The Bears. I briefly just want to touch on this because this had happened last week, and we had a tweet that was put out that it got some attention and people were talking about it. The Bears were reportedly open to trading a future 4th round pick to the Falcons to move from the 9th overall pick in this last draft to the 8th overall pick. And the Falcons said no. I think this is one of the stupidest things the Falcons could have ever done. Why would you not take that for a free 4th round pick? There were some arguments being made that, well, maybe they were afraid that the Bears would then sell the 8th overall pick to somebody else, which I guess I could understand that argument. But realistically, if the Bears are going to trade up to get a pick, what are the chances they're going to trade up to grab the pick and then go ahead and sell it right after that? They had their eyes on Odunze. That's who they were going to trade up for. And the Bears already took Caleb Williams, their quarterback, at the 101. So if the Falcons really, truly were interested in Penix, why would you not back up one spot? The Bears are not also going to draft another quarterback in the top 10 picks, and you get a free 4th rounder. I just think that is such a stupid thing for them to really... They fumbled the bag on that one.
It doesn't make any sense because worst case scenario, like if that nightmare scenario happened where they traded it to the Bears and then the Bears sent it to somewhere else and they picked up a quarterback. Okay, worst case scenario, then now you have to rely on the quarterback that you just signed for like $200 billion. Like, oh no, like we have to actually stand by the decision that we made. That's the worst case scenario. And best case scenario, you get the additional pick and still make the same decisions that you already would have. So I agree with you. It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Do you think they just clicked the wrong button? They're just like, oh, shit.
I think the Falcons being the Falcons, I think that there's a high probability that was the case. Like, shit, we meant to click
Arthur Smith
step.
made an appearance real quick.
We signed Kirk Cousins this offseason? I had no idea.
Do you think they drafted Penix and then realized they have Bijan Robinson on the team at the same time? They're like, what?
We have
What?
both these guys?
Have you looked at our roster?
All right, let's get into the interview with Jets beat reporter for Sporting News, Jay Ricci. And now to welcome in a very special guest of ours, Jets aficionado, Jay, who is he's a beat reporter for the Jets with Sporting News. Jay, we are so excited to have you here today to talk a little bit of Jets football. Welcome in, brother.
Appreciate you guys for having me on. Thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure. I gotta first and foremost, for anybody who is listening on audio, I highly recommend you please go check out the video because Jay's background is absolutely incredible. You are a Jets fan through and through. And I see that you have a Super Bowl champs flag behind you, and the last time on there was 1968.
There's a lot of space, though. There's a lot of room. So
there is. I got to ask you because you're very obviously born after 1968. Has it been pretty hard to be a Jets fan all these years? Because it's been quite the journey.
I mean, I've been a Jets fan since 2008, so the year Brett Favre came there. So you know what I mean? Since then, it hasn't really been that good. But
sure.
I've seen some good moments, the AFC Championship games with Mark Sanchez. But other than that, it's been pretty shit. I'm not going to lie to you.
So what motivates you? Like I mentioned at the beginning here, you are a beat writer for Sporting News. Mm-hmm. What motivates, what gets you up in the morning for this Jets team currently, and what excites you about this upcoming year, if there's anything to be excited about?
Oh, there is.
Oh, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to be excited about. Even last year, there was a lot to be excited about. But, with Aaron Rodgers coming back, that's obviously the main topic. He's going to be coming back off that injury, so they're going to look good, man. If they got the right pieces in the offseason, they made some moves in the draft, they made some trades, and they're looking a lot better than they did last year. But, the key thing is health. You just got to keep in mind that if they can stay healthy, I don't want to be biased, but I feel like if you know football, you look at that team. If they can stay healthy, they will be a team to mess with.
Well, let's talk about the health for a second, because obviously Aaron Rodgers coming off this Achilles injury.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we're seeing is he's not even worried about it. He's got the ayahuasca flowing. He's happy. He's ready to go. I think the last report that I saw from using a quote from Aaron Rodgers said that during OTAs he felt about 90%. In the Jets sphere, Jets fans, is there any reason to be concerned here? Should people not expect him to look like the old Aaron Rodgers, or do you think he's going to come out firing?
Well, I mean, he's 40 years old, right? He's going to be 41 at the end of the year, so he looks good to me. He's running around. I know there was, I think, a video last week or 2 weeks ago with him sitting down and taking his sock off, and people lost their minds about it, but it was just blisters. So, I mean, it's how he handles it, And then there's obviously today the rumor that he's not at minicamp, and people need to relax about that because he's a 4-time NFL MVP. He's won a Super Bowl. He can miss a minicamp if he wants to. Get over it. But
it's just going to cost him $50,000.
He's fine. He'll get it. Don't worry. He'll get some incentives this year too. So, but I think they did the right moves. They built the line up, which is something they did not do last year. And I don't want to say it was the reason why he got hurt, but you know what I mean. It was a factor.
That turf, that field.
Well, the turf. Yeah, that's a whole nother. Don't get me going on that. But if he can stay upright, he can play to the potential. The last year he played, he had, I believe 29 touchdown passes, and he did that with a broken thumb. You know what I mean? He had an off year with the Green Bay Packers and obviously didn't play last year. But the 2 years before that, he was the NFL MVP. That's what people don't realize. And you had Garrett Wilson, you had Breece Hall, Mike Williams, Tyron Smith in there. They drafted Olaf Fashanu. I know he's not going to play that much. John Simpson, Morgan Moses. That sounds good to me.
You mentioned health, and you say if you can stay healthy. I think that's a legitimate concern, and I just want to explore that a little bit because obviously Aaron Rodgers coming back from an Achilles injury. We've already covered that. But you look at Mike Williams, who historically over the last few years with the Chargers has struggled to stay healthy, and that's one of it's no surprise that the Jets were looking to add a pass catcher this offseason. I think we all kind of understood that as the offseason had started. The Jets were kind of vocal about that, and you could tell based upon the conversations they were having with individuals that was a key focus area that they really wanted to improve on. So Mike Williams, is he going to be able to stay healthy? Aaron Rodgers, is he going to be able to come back? I mean, from a realistic perspective, this is a very difficult division. So is that like a legitimate concern for you as a Jets fan and a Jets beat writer to sit here and say the Jets are going to be really good this year, but also you have some, I don't want to say elders because that's probably not a fair statement, but some guys who are getting a little bit up there in age and have health concerns.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, health is the main factor. Literally, I wake up every day and I just pray for health because we saw it happen in 4 plays last year. Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles, and I was there. I was at that game.
So walk us through that. Walk us through that. I
told this.
I got to hear it.
So I don't know if both of you guys know, but I'm from Canada. If I look out my apartment, I can see Detroit, but that's how close I am to the States. So, but me and my parents, we traveled to New York. We had a little family trip, and me and my dad went to the home opener, and yeah, I had to be there.
Also a Jets fan. Is dad a Jets fan as well?
He's a Bills fan actually, but he's a casual Bills fan.
Okay.
Like I don't even think he knows who Josh Allen is.
Okay.
He was wearing a Jets hat that day. So
okay, we'll give him that.
He must be a casual Bills fan then.
Yeah, exactly. But so when that happened, I was sitting pretty high up because tickets weren't cheap. So I was sitting in the nosebleeds and I saw somebody was injured, and I first all right, Mekhi Becton's down, whatever, nothing out of the ordinary. And then I checked my phone and it kind of got a little bit quiet, and then I saw that he went down on Twitter, and I was like, oh my god. So the experience to be there. It went from loud to quiet within 2 seconds. Once Zach Wilson came onto the field, and I'm so mad I just said that name because it's like saying Beetlejuice 3 times. But like once he came on the field, man, I've never experienced something like that in my life. My heart sank. Like I don't know if you guys have seen this meme of Rick Grimes standing there with like he's crying. That's exactly what I felt. That's exactly what I felt during that day.
It's funny. Go ahead, Scotty.
Well, you mentioned Zach Wilson, and I'm just interested because you wrote an article recently where you talked specifically about how the offensive line has been restructured. And in that article, you had a quote that I just wanted to give to all of our brainiacs here because I thought it was interesting, kind of funny, but not really funny if you're a Jets fan. But the quote is this: Zach Wilson was sacked 46 times with a QBR of 30.6. Trevor Siemian was sacked 8 times in 5 games with a QBR of 14.4. Tim Boyle was sacked 9 times in 3 games with a QBR of 10.9, and Rodgers' lone sack ended his 2023 season. So my question about Zach Wilson is this: did he get a fair shake? Did he have any opportunity to succeed? And as a Jets fan, are you kind of like, is a part of you rooting for his success somewhere else, or are you just like, fuck that guy, I'm sick of him, I don't want to think about him anymore?
I mean, as far as his success, I was pumped. I bought his jersey right away. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be that guy. I bought it, and I was excited for the kid. I thought he was going to be good, playing at BYU. He had the swag, but it just didn't work out. I feel like this year, he kind of got killed. Like, there was a lot of games where he was running around. You just read the stats. So he didn't really have a lot of time to throw this year. I went to 4 games, and every game I went to, he was running around for his life. Mm-hmm. So, but as far as, like, what they did to build around him, they definitely gave him the weapons. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and, like, they had an opportunity to do it. It just didn't click for him. And, they do play the Jets this year. The Broncos do play the Jets this year. And a long time ago, maybe like a month ago, I said on my buddy's podcast that I kind of hope that Zach Wilson comes into MetLife and just whoops the Jets because I think it would be funny. Like, I think it would be funny, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I do want to see him succeed. But I know they just drafted Bo Nix. But I did see a report that he is currently their number 1 guy right now, so it's good for him. Yeah, that's I have right now. Yeah, like I have no hate towards the kid. You know what I mean? Like this year was a write-off because, like I said, he was running around for his entire life. So, but other than that, I hope he does well in Denver.
The rumors on the street is that his main focus was not on studying the game of football, but studying his mom's friends. So that's just a rumor flying around. I
don't know if you saw his mom's friend, but I get it.
Yeah, who could blame him?
Yeah,
but then again, his girlfriend too. So I mean, he's a Utah kid, but he's
a good-looking dude. I won't take that away from him. I mean, hey, do what you got to do.
He's got a girlfriend and a side piece and a third wife, and that's
yeah. He's doing good. So and now he's back. He's back closer to home. So high altitude.
Hey. I have a real problem rooting for the Broncos. As I am very vocal on our show here about it. I think Sean Payton is a scumbag piece of shit. So
yeah,
it's gonna be difficult for me to root for him. But I'll tell you what, I will on the day that he plays the Jets, I will root for the Broncos just for sake of hilarity because I have no skin in this game. So
I mean, I hope they win. Like I hope the Jets win, but I just like if Zach goes like 21 of 30 with like 3 TDs and like 308 yards and like no picks, I would laugh.
That would also be a pretty big slap in the face for Robert Slaw.
It would just be the most Jets thing ever. That's why I'm used to it at this point.
Sure. I want to pick your brain about Hassan Reddick here for just a moment because he's also in the media a lot here recently as somebody that he was traded to you guys, right? And he according to sources, he had came into the Jets with the understanding that he would not be getting a contract extension until after he played this season. And then depending upon how he does this season, the Jets would then have a negotiation for a contract extension. That was kind of the handshake agreement, so to speak, that Hassan Reddick and the Jets had when they went and traded for him. And now it seems like that isn't the case, or something has changed here because Hassan Reddick, alongside with Aaron Rodgers, has not been present here for practice and these mini camps and stuff. So what are your thoughts on that? And was this a galaxy brain move to get Hassan Reddick out of the hands of those that we're going to have to deal with this issue and make it a Jets problem?
I mean, I think he just wants to get paid, and he deserves to get paid. You know what I mean? He's one of the best edge rushers in all of football, and they didn't really give up too much to get him. They just lost Bryce Huff, So that was a big loss for our defensive line. But and then also they did just draft Will McDonald. So, I mean, I'm a little bit concerned about it because, when you sign a contract, you expect to be there, right? And he hasn't been there at all. Rodgers, that's completely different because, like I said, he's been in the league forever. I don't even care. You can do whatever you want.
When it sounds like the Rodgers thing, and I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but it sounds like Salah and Rodgers this had been a conversation that had happened like it wasn't just a surprise. It sounds like Salah had known about this, and it had been previously conversed upon before it got to this point. So I think Twitter and the media spaces are by and large extrapolating the Rodgers situation, but the Reddick one is a little bit different, like you were going to state there.
Yeah. Well, even today, I don't know if you guys saw, but Hassan Reddick did post a tweet telling people to just stop believing what they're seeing on social media and just what the media is running with. So I actually replied to somebody on there, and he actually liked one of my replies.
Oh, nice.
Which is pretty funny. Yeah. So, but I mean, like I said, he wants to get paid and he deserves to get paid. But the thing with the Jets is we have to pay a lot of guys. You got Brees, you got Sauce, you got Garrett, and now Hassan, Jermaine Johnson. There's a lot. DJ Reed wants to get paid. So, I mean, I hope he doesn't hold out because we could use him. You know what I mean? We're in a win now year. I mean, we were in that last year, but he definitely helps our offensive line. Like I said, he's one of the best edge rushers in football. So he just wants to get paid. He deserves it. So,
hey, I had Scotty can attest to this. I had the Jets winning the division last year until 4 plays in. I had the Jets winning. I thought that there was a really good chance that they did, and then obviously
Brees took off for 22 yards on the first play of the year.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I was like, let's go.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously Rodgers going down derails the season. Obviously having issues with the offensive line made it difficult to make something happen with a lesser quarterback, but. The expectations were real high last year, and they are, again, real high this year. So as someone who's in the Jets space, what are your actual expectations for this team? I mean, at what threshold do they have to reach in order to not disappoint you? Is it winning the division? Is it winning the conference? Is it a Super Bowl appearance? How high are these expectations?
Well, with everything that happened last year, my expectations was for them to win the division. I think I had them finishing 12-5, and I actually have them finishing 12-5 again this year. But I mean, as a diehard fan, if they can win a playoff game and compete for the division, I'll be happy. But at minimum, they have to win a playoff game this year. If they don't win a playoff game, the whole coaching staff has to go other than Ulbrich. Well, I mean, he'll probably get hired somewhere else. But that's just with what we have. Like I said, health again. But if they are healthy and they do not win a playoff game or, they finish 7-10 again, hopefully not, things got to change. But I don't know if the Super Bowls – they have the team, but like I said, it's just health. And there's other teams. The Chiefs are always a sneaky team. Dolphins are going to be good. I hate to say it. I know a lot of Jets fans don't like them, but they're going to be good. Patriots aren't really a threat. Bills
could be.
I don't know.
Josh Allen's always.
Oh yeah, I'm not discrediting him, but I don't think they're going to be as good as everybody thinks they're going to be. I still think they'll win maybe 11, 12 games, but I think the Jets will split with them.
Well, Vegas has the Jets win total. Let me just phrase it this way. The Jets are underdogs, according to Vegas, in a total of 3 games. So Vegas expects this team to finish the season 14-3. Sounds like that's pretty close to what you think, too.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 games are probably San Francisco, probably Bills, and then I would say a Dolphins game.
Exactly.
What
So, and I actually, fun fact, I'm going to be at the week 1 game.
Oh,
so
nice.
That's going to be crazy. And then I have them losing that game, unfortunately. But that's because I'm not a completely biased person. I understand football.
Well, and that's something I appreciate because you could sit here and talk to fans, and as a beat writer, you have to put that realistic hat on at times where you're like, hey, man, I am a diehard fan, but I also understand the realism that is my team, and I think that's hard for a lot of people to cope with at times, unless you really are like myself, a Cardinals fan, and you're just that you're abysmal.
Ooh.
But you have carrying a real expectation is much appreciated. I want to go back to something that you mentioned just a moment ago in regards to if you don't win a playoff game this year, the coaching staff needs to go. I see that a lot. I see a lot of Jets fans kind of harping on Salah, and I see a lot of Jets fans, I think as far as media spaces are concerned, like the coaching staff is kind of on the hot seat, and I really want to pick your brain. Is that a fair expectation? And it sounds like you kind of carry that with you already. But I pose this question to you. We've all seen Hard Knocks. We've all seen what the Jets are, and I, as a fan of Hard Knocks, I have watched a lot of teams over the years.
Yeah.
As somebody who is very unbiased and could care, no insult here, I could care less about the Jets, right? Like the Jets are just the Jets for me. And so, I watched that and I said, man, and I brought this up to Scotty. I was like, Salah seems like somebody who's really got the ships. He's a great speaker. It seems like he knows how to motivate his guys. It seems like he's doing a lot of the right things. And then you go watch somebody like the Dolphins, like Mike McDaniels, right? So you watch that Hard Knocks, and it was very apparent to me very quickly watching the Dolphins Hard Knocks, like Mike McDaniels is a goober. And I like the guy. I like the guy. He's very much a nerd. He doesn't command that team. He doesn't demand respect, I guess, is really where I'm trying to go. And Salah does. And I bring all this to the table because can we not give him a pass for last year? They went. It's been no surprise that Zach Wilson isn't the guy, and we've seen him rolled out year over year due to injury or due to circumstance or due to is he the guy or is he not the guy? We know what Zach Wilson is. We've seen it by now, and it's not a pretty product. But the unfortunate reality is at some point in time, he's going to get rolled out, and it just so happened to be on play 5 last year. So can we not give the coaching staff a free pass last year because their a Hall of Fame quarterback went down that they had acquired and had very high expectations for?
Well, I mean, yeah, he's still there, right? So
sure.
But like I said, if everybody's healthy and they don't win I don't know, like they have to win a playoff game. I don't know if they will go to that extent, but as long as this is what 5th year now, I think. Can't remember, 4th or 5th? 4th? I don't remember.
I think.
But and they haven't made the playoffs yet. They won 7 games. I mean, winning 7 games last year, considering, is pretty good, to be honest. But in my opinion, I would like to see a change if that happens.
Okay.
I know a lot of Jets fans agree with me. So
let me pose this question to you. Say you guys, maybe you're just off of a playoff push, or you maybe lose your first playoff game, whatever it might be. But Aaron Rodgers says, I'm going to stick around for another season. Let's run it back. At that point, are you still flipping over the coaching staff? Because you have Aaron Rodgers in probably what's going to be one of his last seasons. Do you want to create that disruption there in your real last chance with the former MVP?
Yeah, well, that's a good point, too. You don't want to, it'll be his technically third year with him now at that point. So I feel like they would keep, if they lose in the playoffs, that's, I don't know. It's hard to say because you never know what happens in the NFL. Look at Mike Vrabel. He's not in Tennessee anymore. That shocked everybody. So
yeah, I don't like that move. I have a lot of respect for Braves.
I mean, I really like Mike Vrabel, so that's kind of why I was hoping Salah would get hired. But like I said, I don't know. But then again, it's the Jets organization. The owners they don't seem like they're the brightest bunch.
And that's
but
no. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's the other side of this coin. Is we can sit here and say Salah needs to go or Salah needs to stay, and he certainly plays some of the factors into that win-loss ratio. But let's not sit here and say that the front office also plays a part in that and the ability to get Salah the tools that he needs in order to succeed. And unfortunately, the biggest tool got hurt last year. But I do think that also carries some weight.
That's why I laughed. Sorry, you're not wrong though.
I don't know. That part to me is interesting because I do think that while Salah gets a bad rep, and I'm like I said, I'm not a Jets fan. I think that the front office also plays a pretty big part in the lack of success that the organization has seen over the years.
Yeah, and you said it before with the field, what's stopping them from? I know 2 teams play on that, and everybody keeps saying that as an excuse, but that's a bullshit excuse. There's multiple teams in the NFL or even in college that play 2 teams on the same field. That's come on, you can do it.
Can't get grass to grow up. It's too cold.
I mean, I don't want to hear that shit, man. You guys roll your field out on a freaking drone, but we can't grow. Come on. Look at Vegas. It's the same thing. Not really, but I don't know. The turf does drive me nuts. I've been there 5 times, and it looks like shit. And I've played football before, and I'm not a big fan of turf, to be honest. Grass is way better. So,
all right. I get the feeling we're going to be ending this here pretty soon, so I want to get a good last question in. And this is really important, so really focus up here. Last year, week 1, Monday night game, Aaron Rodgers goes down with a season-ending injury.
Yeah.
This year, week 1, Monday night game. By the way, you were at last year's game. You're going to be at this year's week 1 game. Is this like PTSD in the making right now?
Oh
like,
my
are you concerned that the juju's against you?
I mean, considering it's literally going to be the exact. Actually, this time it's just going to be me and my dad going. So, but
It's your
I
mom
was
that's
thinking.
the bad luck.
Well, okay, I'm actually going to say something. This is going to sound really crazy. So she was starting to get into football, and she started watching Last Chance U. You guys know the Netflix show, and
Yep.
one of the players tore his Achilles. And no word of a lie, maybe an hour and a half before we were leaving to MetLife, she asked me, "Where's your Achilles?" And I showed her, and I was like, "It's right here on your ankle." I'm not even kidding you. And then I come home, and I was like, "Do you remember what you asked me yesterday?" She's like, "No, why?" And I was like, "You asked me what an Achilles was." And she's like, "Oh, yeah." And I was like, "Yeah. We're not. You're done with football." I was like, "That's it." I was like,
You're not asking me any questions about football on game day.
She was so like, she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I was like, "Mom, relax. I was just kidding." But no, I mean, I did think about that because it's kind of sketchy, but they're playing on grass. So, and like Tyron Smith, John Simpson, Morgan Moses, Brees Hall is going to be full go. Like Malachi Corley, who I didn't mention, Braylon Allen. Like, bro, come on. We got dogs. Like,
Okay, I'm going to ask you one last question because
Yeah.
you guys did have a lot of acquisitions this offseason. So between the draft and the offseason acquisitions, who is the best player, in your opinion, that the Jets have acquired for this upcoming season?
definitely Tyron Smith. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Because look at what happened last year. Like I said, I don't want to blame anything. No, screw it.
Sure.
I'm blaming Dwayne Brown. I don't know why he cut blocked on that play. But then again, Aaron Rodgers should have threw the ball faster. Garrett Wilson was wide open. But like I said, the left tackle position wasn't as strong, and Dwayne Brown got blown by Leonard Floyd, of all people. And he got
Who, by
sacked.
the way, is playing for the 49ers.
I was hoping you were going to say that. Jesus. It's just like, I'm telling you, if this happens again, it's just going to be a bad day. But yeah, Tyron Smith for sure, because he's obviously one of the best left tackles in all football, and Aaron Rodgers loves the guy. He's played against him a few times, so as long as he can stay healthy.
Hey, fingers crossed for Jets health this year.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for you guys. It's a tough division. You got the Dolphins, Patriots, and the Bills, of course. But I think if they can stay healthy and Aaron Rodgers can come back from this injury, it's going to be a really, really fun year for the Jets, I think.
You just got to stay neck and neck with the Dolphins until it gets cold, and then you'll blow
That's
right
it.
past
I keep saying that. If the Dolphins don't win the division, they're not going to do anything. I'm telling you. You draft a Hawaiian quarterback to play in Miami, and then you expect him to play in cold weather. I think I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Like, Tua's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I don't like how all these Jets fans are like, "Oh, Tua's shit." He is 5-0 against us, but he has beaten like Walmart Bob, and you know what I mean. So, but he's still a good QB.
Well, last plug here, shameless plug. Go ahead. Where can everybody find you at and find all of your work at?
You guys can find me. I do a lot of tweeting, and my Twitter is JJetsX. I do some YouTube shows once in a while. I mainly do them during the season. I do like pre-game and post-game reviews, and I bring on guests and stuff like that. I haven't been doing anything during the off-season because it's summertime and I work construction, so I'm busy as hell right now. And I golf like crazy, so that's, yeah.
Hell yeah.
But you guys can look at my links at the Sporting News / Ricci, JRICCI. And I'm going to be posting more articles. Like I said, I just posted one today about Tyron Smith. You can check those out. And yeah, that's about it.
Perfect. Jay, appreciate you joining us here at Leather
Thanks
Brains.
for having me.
Absolutely. We will kick it back over to the other group. Appreciate your time. And until next time, take care.
Go Jets.
Welcome back, everybody. Truly appreciate Jay taking the time out of his day to talk some Jets football with us. AFC East is going to be incredibly competitive this year, and it was great to get his thoughts on where the Jets may finish this year, as well as all the offseason fodder that's going on. Make sure to go give him a follow over on Twitter at JJetsX. Jay, really appreciate you coming on. All right, gentlemen, let's go over to Hard Knocks. They talked about it yesterday. The season will now feature an entire division being the AFC North. It debuts December 3rd on HBO. This is going to get interesting. Hard Knocks being not one team like we are very familiar with, but an entire division. I'm interested to see how they cut this whole thing up, because as you follow the team in season, like I've watched the last couple years of it, you kind of get a better understanding of the team and what really they're going through. But now with 4 teams, is it I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? Is this a little muddied up or exciting? Were you happy about this? Sad?
I think we're going to get way more meaningful storylines because you can tell in some seasons of Hard Knocks they come in and they're with one team week after week. It's not like every group of people is the Kardashians. So it's like how do you come up with stuff that's interesting to show? Now you have a ton of options. Also, this division is going to be very exciting this year. There's going to be a lot of drama between quarterback rooms and everything. It's going to run the gambit. So I think this is a great decision by them. I'm kind of surprised it took them this long to come to this conclusion. But one thing that's interesting is we continually hear that all these NFL teams hate having Hard Knocks. It's a distraction. It causes people to act differently when they're playing. Now they're like, oh, not only is one team going to have to deal with this, but we're going to make the entire freaking division deal with this. So it'll be interesting to see how people react to that. But overall, as a consumer, I'm very excited.
And let's not forget that we get to follow Arthur Smith around for the whole season, fellas. We get to hear him. All the press conferences, all the Arthur Smith fuck bombs. I'm here for it.
That's hilarious. Well, I think off of Netflix, Netflix they did a quarterback and then wide receivers coming out as well.
Yeah.
And then they also have done Drive to Survive following like the F1, and it's grown those grown sports that have done that. Golf has their own, and I think you're going to see the NFL probably lean more and more into these things as they try to like claim that market share, especially last year with like Taylor Swift and the Chiefs and just like how obnoxious that got. Like, but the NFL loved it because it on a product that is already as large as it is, it can still grow. They're going to keep finding ways to continue to grow it. So as much as football fans are going to love it, they are obviously playing the angle of some of those other series that lean in and people can understand how things work and who's who and what are they doing. And so all that's just largely interesting to grow the game. So it's good for us.
Yeah, that is a really good point, and one that I hadn't really thought of is like you think about, you mentioned Taylor Swift, and it's like, well, when you get the biggest pop star in the universe to get interested in football, it's going to bring in new fandom. But we can sit here and talk football all day because it's what we do. But there's a lot of people who might not understand the intricacies or understand exactly what goes on behind the scenes. And not to say that we're privy to any more of that information, but we have a little bit better of a general understanding of how those things work. So to kind of open that door for the general populace, so to speak, is probably a good thing for the sport. And obviously there's money to be made there as well. So
it also just goes along with what Alan said. It does expand the fan base because my wife is a perfect example. She gets mad when I watch football all day on Sunday, which is very selfish of her. I can't believe she does that. But
Shame on her.
I sit on the couch all day on Sunday and watch football. She's upset about it. But like when these docuseries come out that like show the ins and outs of their lives and show them on a personal level, there's a whole sect of people that are not interested in the game of football, but are interested in how these famous people live their lives. It's a no-brainer for me.
So what would a wild storyline be if you were to make one up right now about HBO, the Hard Knocks for the AFC North?
Deshaun Watson introduced Nick Chubb to his massage therapist.
You took mine. I was going to talk about Deshaun Watson.
Let me think. Deshaun Watson is a good one.
Tee Higgins keeps shitting in Jamar Chase's locker because he's jealous of him because he's about to get paid and he's not.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
I never root for injuries, but it's going to be interesting to follow Joe Burrow, see if he has any complications with his wrist injury or his tendon issue that he's dealing with.
I was just going to say that. That's going to be a big one. That's going to be a really, really big one because if he's hurt again, that's 3 out of his 5 seasons that he's played where he's been injured. And for a team that's figuring out which quarterback they're going to play to have to pivot and be like, fuck, what are we going to do? Or, which wide receiver are we going to pay to have to think about their franchise quarterback and be like, can you even can you still play at the level we need you to would be super interesting to come out of that.
That'd be heartbreaking. That would be so heartbreaking to watch. Like I know that there's kind of a pseudo rivalry between Bengals and Chiefs fans, but man, like Joe Burrow's good for the game of football, and like I really do hope he stays healthy because he's good for the game and he's fun to watch. And like I don't want to see his career get cut short because of injury. I think that would just be one of the saddest things for me. I hope.
Yeah, 100%.
I hope we don't.
And as Chiefs fans, you want the best competition. Like at this point where we're on the top, which I still can't believe that that's the case. But you want the best competition. You want to see your team defeat the best version of your opponents all the time. I am interested to see how we haven't seen Derrick Henry on a new team yet. So I'm interested to see. I hope they kind of go into in practices, all these defensive players that normally would just have to face Derrick Henry like every once in a while, and now they got to face him like every single day, all the time. I hope that they kind of dig into that and really show that Derrick Henry is just a beast and someone that you do not want to have to tackle on a regular basis.
I genuinely am excited to see the Steelers. I mean, to be honest with you guys, there's a lot of conversation going on right now about the quarterback room and Russell Wilson. They got Justin Fields this offseason. There's, we're even sitting here speculating, and Russell's going to be a 1-year option, and then maybe it's Justin Fields' team. Like, I'm excited to kind of see the ins of that a little bit and see what the Steelers are planning for and how they utilize two very serviceable quarterbacks together at the same time and what that looks like, as well as a wide receiver room. I mean, you look at that wide receiver room and like, I hope they kind of give us a background of that as well, because, Deontay Johnson's not there anymore. Their wide receiver room is not wonderful right now, aside from George Pickens, who there's speculation on. So that team is really, really interesting to me. And I really want to kind of see the background of that or the things that we don't hear about all the time.
I've thought about that. That's a really good point, because Russell Wilson, when he left Seattle, which I think he was like, you've seen players that overshadow coaches, just like, Rodgers is kind of doing now in New York, where you have these quarterbacks that are just larger than life. And then when Russell went to Denver, he was overshadowing everybody when he got there. He was the man. Like, he can do no wrong. He had his own office or whatever the hell he had. And it was just like doing whatever he wanted. And I think going to Pittsburgh, he's not overshadowing Tomlin. Tomlin is in charge. He is the guy. And I don't think he'd have any qualms, sitting his ass down right away and then just playing Justin Fields. Like, he doesn't care. He's going to play who he thinks is, and puts his team together the way he thinks they're going to win games. And so that'll be interesting in how Russ deals with that, where, he's going to have to take a step back, his Mr. Unlimited bullshit he was doing, he can just unlimitedly sit on the bench if he needs. So
I know I jokingly brought up Deshaun Watson, but it'll be interesting to follow the Cleveland media if Deshaun Watson sucks again to start the season. And if they're like, we should have kept Joe Flacco, or like what the Browns are going to do about that situation if it comes to the Browns are going to miss the playoffs, or, they're way below 500.
And despite what all this looks like, this episode was not brought to you by HBO.
We're going to discuss House of Dragon next.
Going back to the Browns, like that's another really, really interesting. Obviously, you have the Deshaun Watson thing, like you mentioned, Yeti, but Nick Chubb is coming back from an injury that really is like a career-ending injury, and the man is literally Superman. Like, he's coming back from an injury that most people would never even dream of coming back from.
I wouldn't even want to play football, even if I could.
It was heart-wrenching to watch, but the fact that he's still coming back is absolutely incredible. So we're going to get to see, hopefully, a revival of him and what that looks like. But that team is, I mean, Amari Cooper, there was reports yesterday that Amari Cooper and the Browns were they were struggling to come to a new contract. And so there's just a lot going on in that team as well. And it's going to be interesting, because they actually looked like a good team last year, and they didn't have Deshaun Watson for a large majority of it, as well as Nick Chubb. So they were playing with a bunch of like backups and still a very good football team. So overall, AFC North, it's going to be fun. I think I'm interested to see how they cut this up and what versions of the team we get. Do we get that back, that some of the inside scoop there, or do we get very surface level stuff because they're covering 4 teams? And I hope it's not the surface level stuff. I hope they go a little bit deeper. Mm-hmm. Speaking of deeper, it is
what a transition. Go ahead.
Thank you. Robert Gronkowski is no longer Bill Belichick's favorite tight end. That new title goes to a woman named Jordan Hudson, former Patriots cheerleader.
What a segue.
Have you guys? Thank you. I mean, have you guys heard about this thing? This whole thing that's getting spewed about Bill Belichick dating a former Patriots cheerleader. She's 24 years old.
She wasn't a Patriots cheerleader. This is a common misconception. I'm going to stand up for cheerleaders everywhere.
Okay,
she's a professional cheerleader. So she's not like on the sidelines, rah-rah. She's like competitions, throwing people 40 feet in the air, doing flips.
Oh, so she wasn't for the Patriots?
I thought she was for the Patriots.
Professional cheerleader.
Oh. Well, I was going to say this makes total sense, but then how the hell did he meet her?
So I heard this story today. I've been really following closely.
Thank God we have you here to figure this out.
From this is actually, I got to shout out the Pat McAfee show, because this is where I heard that today. But apparently she met Bill Belichick on a flight, and it was just coincidence. And Bill Belichick had to help her with her homework.
Bullshit.
That's
way.
what was said out loud. Whether or not that's true, I don't know.
God.
But that's what was said out loud. And apparently that was when Bill Belichick was still married. They just maintained some sort of relationship, some sort of friendship, whatever. And then after he got, or I don't know if he was ever married, actually, now that I say that. But whatever, at some point in time, they ended up going romantic with this whole thing. According to the rumors. We don't know if any of this is true. We should be stated.
We don't. But I do want to preface by saying Bill Belichick is 72 years old and this woman is 24 years old, to give anybody that doesn't know of the situation a little bit more information there. So just doing the math, which
Close.
it sounds like she needs help with anyway.
So it's
48-year age gap.
That's not
48-year
bad.
age gap.
So
That's not
yeah, when she was born, Bill Belichick was 48 years old. When she got her driver's license, which was only 8 years ago, that's when she started driving. Bill Belichick was almost old enough to collect Social Security. Like they were on complete opposite ends of the freaking age spectrum. Like it's wild. But I want to pose this question to you guys, since we're talking about, I think this is a very obvious sugar daddy situation. I don't think she saw Bill Belichick and said, that guy's hot.
Now that we have more information, I think there might be a tutor situation here going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a... never mind. I'm not going to say that. I want to ask you, what would it take? We're all relatively young, spry gentlemen. None of us are nearing
Thank
Social
you.
Security age. Yeah, especially you, Alan.
Thank you.
Who is your top choice if you had to go pick a older celebrity woman to be your sugar mama?
Does it
top
have to?
choice.
It has to be over 35 years, right? Gap. We'll say like 35 years.
I would say just
age.
around Bill Belichick's age, 70s-ish.
I was going to say Betty White, but she's deceased now. R.I.P. Love you, Betty.
I mean, unless you're into that.
Well, I'm good, but I would have chosen Betty White if she was still alive. I love that woman dearly. You put some options up here. You put Dolly Parton, who's 78, Helen Mirren, who's also 78, Christie Brinkley, I don't know who she is, but she's 70 and she's gorgeous at 70.
Oh, she's smoking hot.
Yeah,
She is might be the hottest 70-year-old on planet Earth.
honestly. J-Lo is 54 and Salma Hayek is 57, which is absolutely wild. I would choose Salma
They don't
Hayek in a
count.
heartbeat.
Those don't
you can't count those
don't
two.
count.
Just throwing ideas.
I guess depends on the. I guess it depends on the amount of money. Because if I'm a single
any one of
dude-
these women could take care of you. Helen Mirren's got a nice British accent, so you can listen to that.
Oh, see, I'm a sucker for those. See that my thing would, I totally get it, because all of us guys are like, oh, she's just a gold digger. Yeah, but if I'm like a single mid-20s guy and some like 70-year-old woman is just freaking loaded and was like, hey, do you maybe want to come see me naked and also I'll buy you all the things you want? I'd be like, yeah, fuck, like,
Yeah.
totally.
I'll
Can
choose
you buy me
Martha
the new-
Stewart.
Can you buy me the new NCAA? It comes out next month, and then like, I'll totally just do it.
You want him to buy
That's
you
all it
video
takes.
games?
That's it.
Can you do my homework too?
Yeah, the homework thing
That's
throws
the
me
lowest
off
bar.
because
I don't know.
so
if it's
she
real.
was
That's just
in
what I
her
heard.
20s, or like I mean,
Well,
she
yeah,
just
but
turned 20.
she was in college, I assume.
So she was
I think she went to
20,
school for like philosophy or
21.
something. So that's kind of Bill Belichick's alley.
He's like,
He's
oh yeah,
philosophical.
I know all about
What's up with
coaching
all
philosophy.
these old guys dating young women? I
Dude.
know Mark Davis was rumored to be dating a 25-year-old professional dancer from Vegas as well.
Dude, Mark
So-
Davis
She
is
said that wasn't true. though.
nasty looking though.
Oh, I'm
Like,
just looking
Hold
this up. Dolly Parton 78. Oh yeah, I'd give that a whirl.
Mark Davis is one of the ugliest human beings ever created, and I firmly believe
On the
that.
outside, you don't
Not
know
with the
his
lights
inside.
off.
Dude.
Hey.
On a stack of money.
If you turn the lights off, everybody's pretty hot.
Dude, Mark Davis is just like Bill Belichick is an old guy. I get that. He's not like an ugly guy. He's just old. Mark Davis is not only really old, but he is just disgusting to look at. It is
Mark
so
Davis-
He's only
I-
69, man.
If it was
Ayo.
pitch black, Mark Davis would be
So
one of those
flexible.
few guys where like you felt his hairline, you'd be like, whoa. You'd be like,
You don't gotta be Helen Keller to
Turn the
be
lights
able to
back on
recognize
really
that face with your hands.
You
say,
just
"Oh,
read it
God."
like you read that hairline like Braille, and you're just like, you're ugly, I think.
Oh shit.
Oh,
All right, boys. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure talking about Mark Davis with you guys, as well as all the other stuff that we covered. Do want to just shout out Jay Ricci one more time. Go give him a follow on Twitter, JJetsX. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk some Jets football with us. That's all I got. Go hit subscribe over on YouTube. Go do all the things. Leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Truly means the world to all of us. And go check out leatherbrains.com. I appreciate it. I love you guys. We
are
out.
Oh, yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out leatherbrains.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.